Not all trophies are created equal. All right. Some of them are a little harder to get than other ones. Some of them are a little more difficult. But welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, you're doing well. Today, I'm going to talk about my 15 rarest platinum trophies. So, this is a pretty much direct follow up to a video I put out a couple of weeks ago about my 15 most common platinum trophies. I had a couple people in that one saying, hey, I also want to see your rarest platinum trophies too. So I figured, why not spread the love, show you what I've worked on here, and in general, just kind of like reminisce about some of the more difficult ones that I've earned. Now, I am not the, I'm not the only goes for hard platinums guy. I know there's a lot of, I assume, great YouTubers out there that their whole thing is that they're always grinding on difficult platinums. You know, they're going for Mein Leben, they're going for Super Meat Boy, they're going for all manner of difficult games because the struggle is fun to watch. I get that. I pretty much just trophy hunt in the games that I'm interested in. Some of them are hard, some of them are not. And so while there are some, I think, pretty good, pretty impressive platinums on this list, I mean, we're certainly not just going to be essentially showing you like a top 15 rarest platinums of all time. You're not going to see a Crypt of the Necrodancer or anything like that here. But there are still some pretty fun ones to share, and games that I would definitely recommend that other folks go for, including a few that are maybe a little bit easier than their percentage would imply. So if that's something you're looking to, sniff out, if you're like, ooh, what are some lower percentage platinums that I could earn? This is one way to do it. So just like last time, I'm just going to share sort of my trophy list on PSN profiles. We'll talk through them. Starting with the 15th rarest platinum I have in my collection. It is Toy Story 3. Which is funny because I think a lot of people would think of Toy Story 3 as sort of like PS3 era trophy filler. But in reality, only 8% of people have this trophy. I guess 1.2% on PSN. But yeah, 8.6%, 8.6%, 8.67% percent of people have this one on PSN profiles. And I think that's really because of like the optional sandbox mode. So if you've never played Toy Story 3, first of all, this is actually a legitimately great game. Like, I am someone who is a sucker and a fan for, movie tie-in games of this era. So maybe my standards in a lot of cases are a little bit lower than others. But I would legitimately defend Toy Story 3 as a great video game overall. So all trophies aside, I do recommend that folks check this one out and give it a shot. But you play through the main game. The main game's not too long. There's trophies kind of all spread throughout that you need to earn. But if we go in order by the rarest trophies here, I bet we'll see, yeah. So this collect all the gold stars. On the main menu in the game, there's like two modes. There's the main story and then there's the sandbox mode. And it's quite strange. I don't really know how to describe it. It's like almost like a mini open world, mini sandbox. It's an open environment. You'll talk to a bunch of different Toy Story characters, and you will basically just like do quests, fulfill side objectives. It's just kind of like miscellaneous work that you have to do. But in order to actually get all of the gold stars and do everything in that mode, it actually takes quite a bit of time. And some of them are not like super easy. None of them are particularly crazy difficult, but you do have to put in some time and some effort in order to unlock some of those gold stars. But if you're willing to put in that time, I think the Pictomatic missions are also a part of that mode too. You can see from the timestamps, like this sneaky. This is one of the main story trophies. You can see I got this back on March 18th, and then it wasn't until April 9th that I got the rest of them. And I was probably working on those on and off in that time. It was probably another 10 hours or so. But yeah, I had a great time with this one. I actually streamed most of the actual game over on Twitch, and then I did some cleanup off stream. I was actually doing some cleanup in the sandbox mode one time when I got raided by Games Done Quick, the speedrunning channel, which was kind of a fun, odd little situation to be in. But yeah, I do recommend this one. I would not have expected this one to be an 8.6% rarity. Very doable and very fun. If you're into PS3 or have a way to play PS3 stuff, I recommend this one. Check it out. All right. My number 14 rarest is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Funny enough, I just unlocked this last month, and I just talked about it in my last video, if I recall correctly, assuming that video came out before this one. But yes, this is one that is sort of going to forever be increasing in rarity, probably. Because you can see it says, warning, this list contains 3 unobtainable trophies. So they did recently shut down these servers as of, I think, December last year or early this year. And there's 2 trophies in here. I forget which ones. These 2. User generated finisher and you can't keep me down. That require you to have an online connection in order to do. So if you didn't do those 2 trophies, you can't get the platinum anymore. And whenever that's the case, as time goes on, new people start playing the game either because they don't care or they don't realize it, and so the total percentage of people that have the platinum goes down as a result because no new people can get it unless you already unlock those trophies and go clean it up later. But yeah, you can check out my last video for like a full overview of everything that it took to get this one. I will say it's really not too bad. It's like 20 hours, and you just have to be willing to get a lot of different collectibles. And in particular, probably the rarest trophy, if I was to guess, would be about the dashes. It's actually collectibles that are rarer. But you can see peak performer, 3-star rating on all dashes in the main game is pretty close. This gold trophy is like the most skill intensive one. You have to all throughout the open world do these sort of like mini races, and you have to get pretty good times, like very specific times that require you to have a pretty intimate knowledge of the levels and no shortcuts and stuff. But there are of course videos you can look up online that will show you kind of an optimal route that you can emulate yourself, and even if you don't do quite as well, it'll be good enough to get the 3-star. But yeah, all in all, I mean, if you're a Mirror's Edge fan, this one's fun enough. I do think that this one is not quite as fun as the original Mirror's Edge game, but I certainly don't regret my time going for the platinum, and it felt good to go back and finally clean this one up, and it's cool to see this one appear on the list. I don't think this is the last recent platinum that I earned that you'll see show up here. All right, we will move on now to number 13, Titanfall 2. I think Titanfall 2, one of the best first-person shooters, if not the best first-person shooter of all time. This is an 8.06% platinum, and it's really, again, because of a couple of trophies. Now, if we order this by rarity, you're of course going to see a relatively infamous trophy at the top here, Becomes the Master. This requires you to place in the top 3 in the Gauntlet scoreboard. This is basically kind of like the tutorial. You have to get a really, really optimized time in order to successfully get this one. Now, I will say, I think that the reputation of this trophy has a little bit overshadowed the actual difficulty. I don't want to suggest that people shouldn't be proud of earning this trophy. 100%, if you're proud of it, that's awesome, and I commend you. But my experience with it was really, I got it within like an hour of trying to go for it. So you just have to really know your route and execute pretty much perfectly. And if you are, I guess, putting in like focused practice, I think it's really, really doable. So, I mean, almost 10% of people have it. So it's scary, but it's very, very possible. And then, of course, the ones for getting all the collectibles is another one of the rarest ones, because you're probably not going to do that if you don't actually go for the platinum. It was a fun replay. I went back and I revisited this one in 2022. And it was fun to go back and replay this one and remind myself, yeah, this game still absolutely rules. And it's a fun platinum experience. Very, very doable with a good variety of stuff that you have to unlock. You do have to also play the campaign on master difficulty, but I would say that it's not that bad in terms of like a hardest difficulty in a shooter. It's certainly not as hard as something like a veteran campaign in a Call of Duty game. So if you have experience with first-person shooters, I think most people will be able to navigate that difficulty pretty well. You also, you have more mobility in this game than in other games, and so you just kind of have more options and tools to navigate the world and find better positions and approach combat scenarios from different angles, all sorts of stuff. So really a very fun game, and I highly, highly recommend it. All right, I lose track of my numbers so fast. I think we're going into number 12 now. It is Shadow of the Colossus, one of my favorite games of all time, with a 7.38% platinum rate. That is very much because of, I think, time investment more than anything else. So if you want to play through and get the platinum for this game, you have to do a lot of playthroughs, several playthroughs. You have to, I mean, there's a bunch of Colossus specific trophies, but the main ones you're going to have to focus on is first you play through the game, then you're going to have to play through on hard mode with a specific good time. And this is kind of the cumulative time across all of your different Colossus fights. And I found this to not be as bad as it seemed to actually go ahead and get. You're going to have to do all the time attack levels and do them pretty effectively. Again, that's another one where I feel like each Colossus that I tried, I was able to sort of get the required time pretty quickly within like 5 attempts on each Colossus. Again, you just know what to do and you can sort of execute very well. It helps that I have some friends that are like legitimate Shadow of the Colossus speedrunners that I've seen play and have an understanding of some basic strategies and things like that. But the one that'll probably really hold most people back is this maxing out Wander's health and stamina bars. So when you either defeat a Colossus or when you eat like lizard tails and apples in the open world, you get slight minor increases to your grip strength and your health. And in order to actually max your health, you would have to do like several playthroughs of the game to defeat enough Colossi to actually max it all the way out. I'm talking like double digit playthroughs of the game or almost. And that would take a long time. And either fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you can replay the first Colossus, and that's pretty time efficient. And within like 2 or 3 minutes, you can fight and defeat the first Colossus, and then you can go and start a new game. And when you're starting a new game, you can choose to carry over your stats, your health, and your stamina from a previous save. And so you basically, once you've done all the other trophies, you kind of just keep refighting and then starting a new game and refighting and starting a new game and refighting the very first Colossus until that's completely maxed out. So honestly, not great in terms of like the vibe of the game. But this is one of those games that I kind of was willing to do because I wanted to have the platinum trophy on my profile because I really love this game a lot. And I do think that it was fun to dig into the time trial stuff and all that too. So I appreciate that the trophies guided me in that direction. Oh, I should also mention this is the Blue Point remake of Shadow of the Colossus. I have played, but I do not have the platinum yet on the PS3 Shadow of the Colossus HD remake. But yeah, love this game. One of my all-time favorite games, and a platinum I'm proud to have. On to the next one here. It is, fittingly, Eco. So Eco is genuinely, even more than Shadow of the Colossus, one of my all-time favorite games. Probably my top 5. 6.02% of people have this platinum, and I'm happy that I do have it. Well, it depends on how you want to look at the perspective of this. You could say I have an advantage, but I really didn't when I went for the platinum. I am an actual Eco speedrunner. Now, I haven't done runs in a year and a half or so, but like I have a legitimate time on the speedrun leaderboards. I have grinded for and attempted unsuccessfully to get the world record before. If you go look at the speedrun.com page, I'm somewhere in the top 5. I really love this game. I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of playthroughs of it. And when I was first looking to learn the speedrun, I actually knew that this game had a speedrun trophy for beating the game within 2 hours, which kind of requires you to know a lot of the actual speedrun strategies, or you can learn the speedrun strategies as you're going for that time, and then kind of just continue on with speedrunning from that point. It's really... The difference between the world record time and this 2-hour time is about a half an hour. So by the time you're good enough to beat it in 2 hours, you can just kind of keep shaving your time down, shaving off a few minutes here and there, going for a few riskier strategies and things, and you'll ultimately be able to get the platinum. So it requires you to do the speed run, which will be the block for most people, and then you do have to do 2 playthroughs for a handful of trophies too. I will say that a friend of mine, Sancho Panda, has a great guide for people looking to speedrun this game, so you can go check them out on YouTube if you're looking to see how to do it. I'm also more than happy to share tips, advice for people, anyone who's looking to go for this platinum, because again, this is genuinely one of my favorite games ever. I was very excited when there was an HD remaster of the game, and that is the version that is kind of most optimal to speedrun in some sense, at least from my perspective. So yeah, I would say this is a fun platinum that I would encourage a lot of people to go for. If you have any love for this game, it feels good to have this one on your profile, and I would say give it a shot. Join the 6% of people that have achieved this platinum. And moving on here, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I think we're on number 10 or so. My next rarest platinum is Ultros at a 5.5%. This is a relatively recent game. This is an incredible game. This game came out in 2024. It is a gated exploration game that is entirely focused around like growing and cultivating a wide variety of plants. 2024 has been a good year for plant games between this and Botany Manor, but you need to basically grow plants to solve a number of different puzzles, help you navigate the world, and sort of like gain a deeper understanding of what is actually happening out in this space station. What is the purpose of it all? You know, I'm not going to scroll down in the trophy list on this one because I probably would give spoilers away. I will just say that in order to get the platinum, you have to really put in some time and effort, and you have to do a lot of work. You need to basically collect everything. You need to, how can I phrase this in a way that will keep your first experience pure? You have to master the mechanics in a way where you borderline need to exploit the mechanics in order to achieve some pretty difficult goals without much guidance. It's one of those things where it's kind of like the perfect storm of there are problems that the game is not asking you for like technical expertise. It's asking you for more of like an intellectual expertise, but it's also not strictly a puzzle that you can just look up the answer for. It really is a situation where you have to deeply understand the mechanics of the game in order to achieve your goal and get the platinum. And the time between the like main playthrough of the game and the platinum is a pretty big gulf. It's like I would say maybe you'll spend 15 hours on the main game, but you're going to spend closer to 40 to get the platinum. That said, I absolutely loved my time with Ultros. This one is still sort of up in the air as to where it will land. I mean, if you look, only less than 1,000 people have even played this game, and only 51 people actually have the platinum. I don't know where I was in terms of the leaderboards for this. I don't think I was one of the first achievers. No, I was number 14 to get that platinum. But I really enjoyed my time with it. This is certainly one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of 2024 so far. Highly recommend it to fans of gated exploration games, fans of like beautiful neon bright, sort of almost overwhelming visuals. It's just the whole package. Great sound design, great soundtrack. It's a really earnest game with a really good message, and it's one that I wish more people would check out. It means a lot to me. It's a really good game. All right, moving on here to my number 9. I think is Need for Speed Most Wanted. This is specifically the Vita version. And this is another one that I cleaned up last year, cleaned up in 2023. I had done the thing in the past where, for whatever reason, I had just popped this game in and I had tried it. And so I had one trophy sitting on my profile. In fact, if I switch this to earned, I think it was one trophy sitting on my profile. I guess oh, yeah, I don't know why this is showing up here. So September 16th, 2020. So back in 2020, I had unlocked basically like the first trophy. I'd played like a race or two. And then I just moved on. And so it sat on my profile forever as like, you know, a 1 out of 50 trophies, 1% grade rating E. It was stuck on my profile, but I had done nothing on it. So I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and clean that game up. And it took a lot of effort. It's kind of the perfect storm of like achievable, but sort of finicky platinums. First off, you have to play through the whole game, and that's not that bad. I mean, it's a fun game, and it actually plays pretty well on Vita. You know, the performance isn't as good as it's going to be on consoles, but it was still an enjoyable playthrough. But then you have to get all of the billboards and all the security cameras, of which there are hundreds. And there's not like a really easy way to have them marked, so you sort of need to just follow a map and go to the different places marked on the map in order to achieve those. A lot of them you'll get naturally throughout your playthrough. At least a lot of the cameras you'll get naturally throughout your playthrough, but not all of the billboards. Or you have to drive every car, and not all of the cars you'll get naturally. So you'll probably have to look some of them up at the very least. And then if I order by, I should have ordered by date. That's why it didn't show up there. But if I order these ones by rarity, it is so collectibles, finish first in every single race, smash every billboard. This is the other one. A couple of these. Unlock 3 pro mods in multiplayer, play a custom speed list in multiplayer, and take down a friend in multiplayer. There's just a handful of multiplayer trophies you need to do. The pro mod one in particular is the difficult one because it's the more time consuming one. You have to be in a game with your friend, and you have to achieve certain goals that take a little bit of time. So then you have to like drive 100 miles, or blow out 50 tires to unlock pro tires. And so you're gonna need a friend who's willing to be in a game with you, working on it at the same time for at least several hours before you're gonna be able to get this platinum. Thankfully, good buddy of mine, Vyar45, also a trophy hunting fiend, he was like, yeah, man, I'll hop on. I think he actually had like people over at his house. He just left his Vita up for me, and I was grinding on it. For part of it, he was grinding on it too. And we both ended up getting most of the trophies. I think he still needs 1 or 2. Vyar, you just let me know when you want me to help you get the last ones whenever you're in the mood for it. But he helped me knock those out, which means that I was finally able to obtain this one. It's at a 5.45% rarity. Can't say I'd recommend it if you're worried about those online trophies, but I recommend playing the game overall. I'm not like a huge like racing game person. I like racing games, but I would say it never comes up when I think of like what are my favorite genres. And I think this is the only Need for Speed game I've ever played. But I did have fun. And I think that it's doable if you're willing to put in the time. And yeah, it's pretty cool to have like a sort of like a AAA Vita game on the profile, right? I don't know how this one stacks up relative to the PlayStation 3 version or something like that. But yeah, you definitely need to plan accordingly. I also don't know if or when they're going to take the servers down on this game, so sort of buyer beware in that regard too. All right, let's move on to my 8th platinum, which is 8th most rare platinum. BlazBlue Calamity Trigger. So this is also my very first platinum that I ever got. 5.3% of people have it, and I love BlazBlue. You can see all these trophies are dated August 2009. I loved my time with BlazBlue. I had never really been a big fighting game up until Guilty Gear X2 on the PlayStation 2. I got into that with some buddies of mine, and then when BlazBlue came out, it was sort of like, it felt like the next logical step. It's like a slightly more accessible Guilty Gear in my mind. So we picked that up, and everyone in my friends group was really into competing. We were playing it and like going hard on it. As with a lot of fighting game platinums, you have to be pretty damn good. You have to beat score attack modes. You have to beat combo modes, arcade modes. There are multiplayer trophies. If I sort this by rarity, I'm sure the multiplayer ones will be at the top. Actually not. So you have to do 200 ranked matches, which is not going to be something that's easy for you to grind out. I think you also have to like observe 20 battles. You have to do 100 ranked matches. So you just have to, I guess you had to do the 200 ranked matches, but you have to play a lot of multiplayer. And obviously at this point, this is a PS3 game. These servers are dead. You can't go in and really do this anymore. So I think for a lot of people, this one's probably pretty inaccessible. As far as I know, the servers are still online. It's just nobody's playing it. And to grind it out yourself would take so long. But I was just super addicted to this game. In fact, I'm actually curious. Let's look and see if I... we'll show secret trophies. If I order this by date, the first one I got was August 12th, 2009, and I got the platinum August 28th, 2009. So yeah, it took me about 2 weeks. I was just fiending for multiplayer in this game. and I was really having a good time. One of the platinums that I would love to get in my backlog before they shut the servers down is actually the sequel to this, which I've done a lot of the trophies for, but there is also like kind of an online multiplayer grind for that one that I don't have an easy way to get. So who knows? Maybe I'll be able to work that one out and get it at some point, but I just don't quite have the opportunity right now. It would feel good to have them both, though. Yeah, really fun fighting game. Definitely check this or future BlazBlue games out. It's probably my favorite fighting game series. I know that Guilty Gear is the series that has sort of carried on, and the legacy of it is a little stronger. It has more modern entries, but I think BlazBlue could really use with like a good modern remake. Honestly, seeing a BlazBlue game in like the Guilty Gear Strive Exerd style, that gorgeous visual style, would be really cool. All right, moving on to the next one, we have Beat Saber with a 4.41% rarity. We've entered into the ultra rare territory now. 3,000 people have this platinum. Beat Saber is, of course, the rhythm game for PlayStation VR. And folks that have hung around this channel for a long time will know I am really a big rhythm game fan. I love rhythm games. And so when Beat Saber came out, like, this was the killer app for PSVR 1. It's a killer app for most headsets, and it was definitely my most anticipated game. I was super addicted to it when it first dropped, and I couldn't get enough. I used to play this game so much that I actually started getting like wrist issues, because you need to, in order to score well in the game, you are scored based on how wide of a swing you take. Like, you want a nice wide arc, which requires you to bend your wrist in like kind of an unnatural way if you're doing it with just your wrist and not with your arms, which for some of the faster songs you almost feel like you have to bend at the wrist. And so I did this for so long that it hurt, and I had to like take breaks here and there in order to let my actual body recover. Plus, you're getting all sweaty, you're fogging up the lenses. Oh, so good. But yeah, in order to achieve the platinum, some of the harder stuff you're going to have to do is get full combos on a bunch of different levels and get SS ranks. So play, really, really well. Full combo, a bunch of stuff on hard difficulty, S ranks on expert difficulty. All those are going to be pretty tough if you're not super experienced. When I played it, there wasn't that much DLC for the game. I think more DLC has come. Like, there's a good amount of DLC now for like Panic at the Disco and I think Linkin Park and stuff. So it's probably easier to do. I bet there's some easier charts, but you're still gonna have to like spend the time and like put in the effort. If I look at the dates though, so I started this one on November 20th, and I got it on Christmas 2019. So it took me about a month. Flex, I did the "you already finished the tutorial" as my last trophy. Little cheeky trophy pop there. But yeah, these two trophies also would be a bit of a grind. You have to spend at least 24 total hours in the game and get a total score of 100 million or more. So a lot of these will take you, they'll take you about 25 hours of playtime to unlock everything if you're pretty competent at rhythm games. Unfortunately, if you struggle with rhythm games, it's just probably not going to be one that you can easily obtain. So I love Beat Saber. I actually really want to play the PlayStation VR 2 version, check out the improved tracking, and play some of the songs, DLCs, and stuff that I never played. Really great game. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So at number 6 now, we have Rick and Morty Virtual Rickality. I think there's kind of a natural increase to rarity for VR platinums because people just don't want to spend that much time in VR. But this is one that I went back and cleaned up back in 2022. So I played this game when I first got my VR in 2018. And because it's by Alchemy Labs, which is the same people that did Job Simulator. And I thought it was fun. I'm not a Rick and Morty fan. Like, I've really never watched the show at all. So I wasn't playing it for the Rick and Morty of it all. I was playing it more for just like the VR goofiness of it all. And most of the trophies are really not super bad at all. There's really just one that is going to be really the showstopper for most people. Oh, I guess there's two. You have to play through, you have to do a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, get a couple of collectibles, but it's a very short game. It's like an hour or two, so none of that is too bad. You're going to have to kill 100 Grom flights in a single session of the shootout. That one is tough, but there's kind of like a janky way to obtain it. So that's kind of like a shooting gallery that you're doing. and you need to be like attacking enemies and dodging out of the way of their fire. But you can do it in such a way where you can like kind of crouch down and hide behind cover or terrain that's nearby and sort of like blind fire and hit enemies. You're still gonna get killed a fair amount, but it makes it a lot easier than it would otherwise be. I think the harder of the two is charge the largest battery to 100 or greater. There's sort of this panel laid out in front of you, and they have a bunch of different things, like you have to like pull levers or twist knobs or just do different actions, and certain sections of the panel will light up, and you need to, when it lights up, you need to take an action on that part of the panel. And it's sort of you trying to like keep all this stuff maintained to like prevent you can imagine like trying to like prevent like a nuclear meltdown. And it starts going really fast. Like if you're like looking back and forth, you're gonna have a really hard time like keeping track of everything. You're gonna miss something, and it only takes a couple seconds of that thing not being attended to before you end up losing and not getting the score you need. My advice for anyone going for this is like approach it by looking left to right across the board. Don't be looking for the things that light up. Sort of like with your hands and your eyes, pan left and right, and then pan left and right again, left and right again, and every time you pass something that requires action, take it and then keep moving to the right. And if you do that, you get into kind of this rhythm, and you'll always have enough time to hit something, and you won't ever do the thing where you get distracted by like looking in the middle, looking left, looking back to the middle, addressing something back to the left, and then the thing on the right triggered because you were like so distracted by other stuff. It keeps you focused, and it makes sure that you never let anything go too long. And if you do that, you'll be able to obtain it. It's pretty doable. But it's really just that one trophy that's holding people back and makes this a 3.83% rarity. A lot of people have this game, actually. 13,000 or 12,000 is more than I would have expected for a VR game. All right. We're in the top 5 now. My 5th rarest platinum is Rez Infinite at 3.01%. Rez is another one of my all-time favorite games. So we have Eco and Rez on here. Shadow Colossus as well. Cool to see all of them represented. I really like Rez a lot. Rez Infinite was cool because it was a game that was always destined for VR, right? Like, this game makes so much sense in VR. I had played it back on the PS2, however many dozens of times, and I just loved it. And so when they announced a VR mode, I gobbled it up. I got the physical edition from IM8bit, and I was happy to jump in and unlock some trophies. Now, I was a little disappointed to learn that the trophy for this is pretty grindy. If I look here, again, let's look at the rarest trophies. Yeah, this is the one that's going to get you. Clear score attack mode 30 times. That's 30 full playthroughs of this game. And this is like an hour, like a 40-minute game or so. So you have to play through it so many times. Honestly, this trophy shouldn't be in the game. But you have to play through it a ton of times in order to unlock stuff. And then in addition to that, you have to do like a bunch of other optional modes. You have to sort of do all the different side modes. And really, it's just more of a grind than it is difficult. You'll just need to be willing to play the game a bunch of times. The way I approached it is I would boot the game up. I would play through the game like twice, have some fun, go for a high score, and then I would set it aside for the day, and I'd come back the next day or a couple days later. I'd do a couple more playthroughs, but I didn't just sit there and grind over and over and over and over, because that would really drain me on the experience. But if you do it that way, spread it out over the course of like a month or two, as long as you like the game Rez, I think that it's still pretty fun. Great soundtrack you get to listen to, so a fun one for sure, but you do need to be willing to put in the time on a game that you wouldn't think you need to put the time in for. Yeah. All right, moving on to number 4 then, we have the other game that I talked about not too long ago, Team Sonic Racing. So this one is probably rarer, it's 2.5%, probably because it has multiplayer trophies and requires so much effort for you to play through. Another one that I talked about in my last video, but the condensed version is you have to do some multiplayer trophies in a game that at this point doesn't really have much of a multiplayer server. You have to play through the game on hard and every level on expert while getting all of the optional objectives achieved, which can be pretty difficult, especially the Grand Prix. All this is kind of with the RNG of it's a team-based racer. So if your two allies on your team are not performing well, sometimes they can just drag you down and make it impossible for you to achieve victory, even if you yourself were doing well, which can frustrate some people. Thankfully for me, that wasn't how it happened too often. And then there's a trophy for having to race against your friend's time on a leaderboard, which the game is just not set up to let you find your friend's time easily. It took me hours of scrolling to find a friend to race. It's just ridiculous. You can go, again, listen to my last video around the trophies I had finished, kind of my journal for April, and I talk a lot more about that one. But in terms of racing games, it'll take you about 25 hours in total to get everything. It is a fun game, pretty rare platinum. I think maybe it's a little rarer than it should be. It's not that hard. It's just you have to be willing to do a lot of racing. But it's a fun game, and I was happy to go back and revisit it. I think partially why it's rarer is because so many people have it. I think this game was given away on PlayStation Plus at some point. All right, top 3. My third rarest platinum is Titan Souls. Another game I really love. So Titan Souls, 2.02% of people have this game. This is a game developed by Acid Nerve, who went on to make Death's Door, a game that I have not played yet, but I will. And my co-host on the Indie Quest podcast, which is a podcast I host about indie games, he brought this game, and he's like, hey man, I think you might like this. And I played it, and I think I loved it a lot more than he did. It was really my kind of thing. And it makes sense, because if you know the types of games I'm into, specifically if you were paying attention earlier in the list and I was singing the praises of Shadow of the Colossus, Titan Souls is basically a twist on Shadow of the Colossus. The whole goal of this game, which I think is so cool, is that you are facing these giant kind of monolithic titans, and all you have is a bow and arrow, and every titan dies in one shot of your bow and arrow. But you have to find and expose the weak point to take that shot. So it's mostly a puzzle game of understanding when and how you can take that shot, and then having the focus to actually hit the shot in your brief window when you have it. It's so cool. And it's got a really incredible soundtrack to go with all that. It's very moody. It's very fun. But there's another one where like I could show you the trophies, but I don't want to like necessarily accidentally spoil things because I kind of really love this game. I will say you have to put in a lot of work to get this. You have to beat it on normal mode. You have to beat it on hard mode. You have to do a speed run of it. You have to beat it on Iron Man mode where you don't die. You have to beat it on hard mode in Iron Man mode without dying. So you have to really master the game. Now you can, it does let you cloud save in a sense where you could like upload your save, try, if you die, you could download your save again and try again. That is pretty finicky to do. I did it in a couple spots here and there, but by and large, I think you're going to get more frustrated than anything else. You do just really kind of need to learn the mechanics of the game. But don't be afraid to do some cloud saving if you really want to get the platinum. Again, like I said, I sort of set myself checkpoints. I still learned a lot of the fights, but I would, rather than save after every Colossus, which would get way too exhausting, I ended up for my Iron mode doing like a halfway checkpoint. So I mastered a lot of them, then I mastered the second half of the game, and I did it that way, which I think is kind of the best balance of like time versus mastery. But a phenomenal game, one of 2015's best, and a game that I wish more people would check out. I feel like this one is lost to time, but it's one that I really love. All right, my second rarest platinum coming up. It is Dreams. Yes, Media Molecule's Dreams at 1.74%. I love Dreams. I am a massive supporter of Dreams. I think that the way that Sony and PlayStation have handled Media Molecule and Dreams has been a tragedy. There have been so many opportunities to give this game the boost that it needed to be a success. It should be a success. I don't know why they did not put it on PlayStation Plus way earlier to increase the player base, or why they didn't release like a free client for you to be able to play games, but maybe you have to pay to create games, or port the game to PC like they've done in the last couple of years with some of their other games to expand the pool of creators and players. Like, promote the game, for Christ's sake. Just for whatever reason, they did not give this game the tailwind it needed to be successful. But that said, I have spent a lot of time, and I've streamed many times, me just kind of exploring Dreams, seeing what's out there, playing through stuff. I've spent probably 100 hours in Dreams overall. That said, even having played all that, if we look at the rarest trophies, the reason that this particular platinum is so rare is you have to do some of these things like rank 3 in a particular quest, use every tool in create mode, rank 3 in music for all ears quest. So there's a lot of those trophies tied to quests. And I think there's one down here. Where is it? Reach Dreamer level 30. So all that requires you basically to do a lot of the creation mode. So if you're not a creator, if you're not someone who's looking to design games, you're not going to get this platinum because you're not going to want to spend the time it takes. And some of those quests, like the puppeteer quest or the music one, require you to spend several hours like sculpting 3D models or writing music in the create mode. So you need to either be willing to learn that, or you need to just dick around or mash buttons in the create mode. You can't just open those modes and let it idle. It requires active input. So there are ways that you could fudge that, and in some cases I did like stretch it out, but yeah, you're gonna need to find a creative way to get through those quests, and most people just don't want to put up with the grind. But this is one of those platinums that, even though I'm also not someone who's like really looking to do the creation side of this game, I love this game so much, I care about it so much that I really wanted the platinum on my profile. And so I was willing to put in the time it took to have this as sort of a trophy, a representation of my appreciation for Dreams and all of the hard work that so many people have put in. Some of my favorite games exist on the Dreams platform. And it sucks because it's, this is a dead man walking at this point. Media Molecule has scaled back. They've said they're not doing any updates. They're in kind of just like run and maintain mode. And based on the way they're talking, you can tell that Dreams servers are not long for this world. They've scaled back on the amount of on the total size that levels can be, or that games can be, in order to save on server space and cost. So I would be surprised if another 2 years goes by and the servers for Dreams don't get shut down. So just a matter of time, but please go give Dreams some appreciation while you can. Give it one last hurrah. Give a shout out to all those incredible creators that have put in so much time and effort into this. And my number one rarest trophy, at my only sub 1%, is a game I talked about not long ago on the channel. It is Lumo at 0.85%. I don't know what it is about this game. It is so much rarer than it needs to be. Honestly, I wish Dreams was my number one. This is a cool number one, but like Dreams is more meaningful to me. Lumo, for whatever reason, if you look down this list, like every trophy in this game is an ultra rare. The platinum, 1.1%, 3.4%, 1.83%, 1.14, 1.6. There's just all like 1 and 2% trophies. I think that people just don't want to trophy hunt in this game. There are a lot of trophies that are very missable. Like there's trophies you only get one chance at, or that if you make one mistake, you lose the trophy for your entire playthrough. So that contributes to some of it. And there's the trophy for, if I order this by rarity one last time, Old School Days, which requires you to play through a mode where you have a limited number of lives. So kind of like a permadeath mode, but you can find more lives as you go. It's just that you can't infinitely respawn. That will hold a lot of people back because there's some difficult parts in the game that if you haven't practiced them could throw your run off. But yeah, there's just a lot of collectibles that are kind of finicky. It's a very particular game, but again, it's one that I feel like should be more in like the 5% range. I just think that for whatever reason, I don't know, this one maybe was also given away on PS Plus or something, but it has an intense rarity that I've never really fully understood. It's a cool game though. I really like this game. I have a soft spot for it. It's more fun than my discussion about the rarity would make it seem. I do recommend it to people. I think it's a really good, if you're like a retro gaming fan, this is a good throwback, kind of like shout out to retro design in gaming. So that's it. That is my 15 rarest trophies. So, well, my rarest platinum trophies. So let me know what you thought, if this was an interesting list, if there's any that you think are particularly cool or ones that you share. I'd also, of course, I'd love to know what everybody else's rarest trophies are. If you're not going to make a video about it, at least tell me in the comments, like, what are the ones that you are most proud of grinding that have a pretty low percentage of people that have obtained them. And last but not least, I do want to thank everyone for all the positive comments, support, everything on the videos lately. I'm glad everyone are enjoying them, and hopefully you're all getting some good trophy hunting time in during these chill podcast style trophy hunting videos. So appreciate you all. I will see you in the next video, and until then, peace.